gentlemen, welcome back to the Archer Report. There's so many good things going on right now on the Archer Report. We are back up and running. The studio is rebuilt. We've been getting requests for interviews. Expect more interviews. I want to thank Peter Zing and David Yelishvili for coming on to help me. Before we rock over to this talk on ECO-FEARISM, I have to thank Thomas Bjorkman. Thank you very much. Look, I haven't even opened this. I wanted to do this specially on the show. Thomas he's a wonderful person, and he's done a philosophy on a thing called The World We Create. And he sent me a book that I wanted to open on the show as a tribute to my thanks for him. So I'm just going to quickly open this. It's in a beautiful blue packaging with, I think, Swedish or Norwegian writing all over it. But I want to thank Thomas Bjorkman for sending this. And look, here it is. I'm going to read this very soon. So I just wanted to do this on the show to say thank you very much to him. Look at this. The Nordic Secret, the European story of beauty and freedom. And, you know, this is going to be really, really fantastic. The Nordic Secret. It's full of maps. It's full of beautiful. It's beautiful. So I want to thank Thomas Bjorkman. We're going to have him on the show at some point, but I wanted to open that up on the air to say thank you very much to him. And The World We Create, I recommend you check that out. It's a beautiful, beautiful philosophy. But right now, we have a great show for you. We're going all the way to Nepal to talk about ECO-FEARISM. Now, everybody knows Dr. Fisher, who we had on the show, Des Schuber, they remember him, and of course, our friend over there at TAFS, Osin Akachi. Now, ECO-FEARISM is a book that's been devised from this idea of fearism that we've talked about with Mr. Fisher, but I think Des Schuber was the real machine behind the philosophy of fearism. You can correct me, but Mr. Bhawani. Look, let's go over to you. Let's talk a bit about this idea of fearism. Welcome to the show.
That's all right. Okay. Fearism is a kind of the theory that have just initiated even by this Subba philosopher and even Michael Fisher from Canada, right? And fearism is a kind of gift to the world, to the present world now, right? Now this 21st century is going to be controlled with the fear, right? So this at present we are experiencing the same fear of coronavirus, right? So these types of concepts of viruses are just the result of our overexploitation on the nature, right? These are the self-created, right, miseries by human beings, right? We are not realizing the eco-balancing system with the with the life cycle, with other animals, other living beings on this planet, right? So this eco-FEARISM has been related with the philosophy of preserving the planet Earth, preserving the animals, preserving all the ecosystems, right? These politics should be guided with the confines of saving the planet Earth, saving the ecology, saving the animals, right? And then people do not start doing the cases just if we say, please save the forest, they do not save. So this forest is to be linked with economy, right? If we just tell the people just to plant the avocado trees, fruit trees, just to plant that bamboos, and just to plant other just fruit bearing trees for their economic booming, and they start doing that activities themselves. And when they start doing the activities of just fruit bearing trees plantation and just with the positive concept of earning money, and what happens that indirectly the eco condition can be automatically saved, right? So it's better to just mobilize the people towards this economic or this money oriented activities, and then that should be indirectly functioning to the this preservation conservation of the nature itself, right? So there are this modern world is being this almost just behind this knowledge, having the knowledge in the mind, how the eco condition, how the forest, how these all living beings life cycles need to be carried out simultaneously with the human being is forgotten. So it is now our responsibility, it is now our duty just to come to the action and just to turn the degrading world into a better position. See, ozone layer is decreasing, and what happens? 99% of ultraviolet rays of the sun is observed by the sun. And if all the ozone layer gets vanished, what happens? Can we imagine our life? See, there is one example in Easter Island. There was a very small society, Polynesian society, and they did not have any knowledge about the conservation of ecology and environment. Maybe the number of researches are going on, and then at last, maybe the last palm tree, fruit bearing trees, they cut down perhaps, and then the life in Easter Island is only has become the history now. Only the annals are there, only the informations are there. Who knows what will be our future world if we do not become conscious right now, if we do not learn from the mistakes of others like Easter Islanders. And what will be the future? Aren't we just digging our own graves? Aren't we digging the graves of our future generations? Aren't we assassinating our this great grandchildren ourselves, right? These are the misfortunes, these are the miseries. That is what the world is just unaware of, right? So people are running after business. They are more or less oriented towards business or earning money, and politics is almost guided only for the power, not for just eco conservation, not for eco just say degrading conditions to save it, right? So there are many environmentalists. Those environmentalists are not in power, right? So those environmentalists, until and unless do not just remain themselves in the position to guide, to rule, to implement their ideas, they can only present the ideas. They can only just show what the world is going on, how the natural condition really is. They can just reveal through the writings, through the text, through the information. They give the informations, and the responsibility or the duty is the duty of the heads of the states, heads of the governments, heads of the concerned authorities, just to convert this world in a better condition. See, at present, the more what we do not know, the value is that since we are living with the forest, living with number of animals, living with number of other things, and we do not realize the earth is not going to become just capable enough to support us. And but those and when we will finish all these ecological conditions and forests and animals, and then we will realize, but that realization will be too late. And too late realization won't be good enough to protect the humanity. See, those Gulf countries or the desert this areas have been turning into green land. Why? Because they knew the values of the trees, the values of ecologies, values of animals, right? And this is very good aspect. We need to learn from these Gulf countries how to preserve our ecosystem, right? And only the person knows when he or she is in a problem, right? These Gulf countries have the problem of trees, have the problem of water, right? And they depend on camels about the water transportation, water, and so many things. Now, see, the world is going to be reversed. The desert land is turning into Greenland, and Greenland is turning into desert land. So we should not become conscious sometime now, right? See, this is really a striking point. And then there are number of animals, they are being extinct, right? And who knows what happens when and how the destruction comes. It may not come in the form of bang, it may come in the form of whimper. Slowly it comes, right? The extinction, death of the human beings, of the civilization, of the animals, of the whole world's buckles or collapse can take place, not at once, not in the form of exploding the bomb and then dying at once. It comes slowly. So it is our time, extreme time, to take care and then save the earth, save the planet, and our ways of thinking, our ways of doing politics should be changed on time. Otherwise, we won't be this going on as usual as the world is going at present, right? It will be too late, to sink our civilization and then whole humanity's fate if we do not start becoming conscious and coming in the action right now. So this is not the single person's effort. The effort should be the effort of the whole world, right? So we should not be happy with the death and destruction of ecological condition, forest and animals in one country. Saving the trees and saving the wild animals in Nepal will be supporting to the whole globe. Saving the animals and the trees of Australia will be the support for the whole world, right? Really, I was worried last time when I got number of animals died in Australian forest fire, right? So I really thought myself, I thought it was a kind of world foolishness, right? The world energy, the world's resources, the world's the possibilities of just putting out the fire should have been applied on time to control the forest fire of Australia, and then to save those wild animals, because those wild animals and those forests of the Australia are not only the just animals of Australians and animals of forest of Australian people. That is what they related with the whole world. That is my concern, right? See, and then even poor countries, underdeveloping countries are trying their best, right? And then see, even in Nepal, one came that vulture saving activities has come, right? There in eastern part of Nepal, they have one restaurant and they collect all the carcasses, right? And keep in a restaurant, and then they provide that
All right, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we have a
local
little bit
and this in the
lag.
yes.
Are you still there?
Yes. Okay.
All right, yeah, continue. We have a little bit of lag there.
Okay, and then see in the beginning when there was, right, see this vulture conservation restaurant, and people did not like even to visit there in eastern part of Nepal, right? And right now they have realized, oh, it is a really good action people started in the past, and now all the society, all the local people have started to store the carcasses for the vultures, and that would be one step of just preserving the vultures. So why not to start these types of activities, these types of conserving the birds, animals, and the forest everywhere in the world. This is one tiny example of the Nepal, right? The country Nepal. So this is concerned with all the peoples of the people of the world. Maybe we and soul and whole responsibility is not only with the rulers, is not only with the politicians. More or less, we have also done. We are also responsible for these degradation, for these misfortunes, mishaps. But we also take the responsibility ourselves from our place, where and what and how much we can do. But the more concern should go to the rulers, to the policymakers, to the politicians, to the heads of the states, to the heads of the governments. They should become concerned. They should know what is going on. They should listen the ideas of the experts. They should come with the solution with the advice of the experts. They should not ignore the this advice, suggestion, whatever the experts provide them, because no one can become the perfect in every subject, every field, right? Maybe the rulers are expert in ruling system. Maybe the policymakers are expert in policy making, but an environmentalist may be better than them, right? And maybe the doctorates, physicians are expert in the medical sectors. And if the rulers pretend to be omniscient, pretend to be knowing themselves, everything, and then acting in that way, what happens? The world cannot run properly. So there should be all the minds brought together and then protect the earth, protect the environment, protect the ecology, protect the animals. We have the relationship with the life. Our life has the relationship with the all just living beings, living creatures, right? See, snakes have importance in our life. Frogs have our importance in our life, right? And all the insects, these just we need to preserve. We are making our earth unhealthy, and from unhealthy earth, we want to we expect to get healthy food items. How is it possible? Can we have the healthy food items from unhealthy earth? We are just mutilating our earth, mother earth. See, now the seas are not in better condition. The mountains are not in real mountains position. So mountain has been turned, mountain peaks have been turned into beaks, like beaks of birds. See, they are mutilated, destroyed. So many plastics, so many other bottles are thrown, scattered right in the sea, in the mountains. And those youngsters who visit to the picnics, who visit to different places as a tourist, they do not become quite conscious how to preserve the ecology and environment. They throw those plastics and other things wherever they want. They don't know how to save it. So it is a crazy idea. We should not do like that, right? So what I think, this ECO-FEARISM should come in the mind of the people. That should come positively, not in a negatively. So let all the people get this sort of education. If possible, why not to just give this sort of course in the just junior levels, in class 8, class 9, 10, and even 11, 12 in school levels? And why not to introduce this sort of courses in the universities? Those future generations who will be leading the world later should get inculcated right now, should learn how they need to just have the ideas and develop in their mind for the saving, for the protection of ecology and environment. And then just rule. They will, if they get better education right now, they will become better heads of the state, better heads of the government, and they can implement these sort of ideas to protect the whole world. And if we save the earth, and we are not saving only one part of the human beings, we are saving the global people. So this is not a one nation's state in this issues. This is the issues of the whole world, right? So this burning issues should be addressed on time by all the concerned authorities, all the concerned policymakers. See, there is no water supply in China. See, there is cloud, chemical cloud in the sky. So how can people become healthy with the chemical cloud in the sky? How can people become free from any diseases like skin cancers and number of cancer diseases and other undetectable diseases are coming day to day? See, this is the result of this coronavirus, is the result of our misunderstanding of the natural ecosystem, natural eco-friendly environment, natural balancing. So we are creating ourselves miseries. who knows what sort of viruses will come in future. This will be again in our own hands, how to act, how to just preserve, how to move ahead to save the whole world in a better condition, right? So these things are to be not only just with the intellectual people, only with the experts, but should be with all the levels of people must have the knowledge. Let them learn these things. Let them get just a knowledge about it. Let them be just imparted the knowledge through the medias, through the books reading, through the Facebooks, these social medias, and so many medias. If we go on putting these sort of ideas in social medias, there is no single person in the world away from the social.
All right. Well, I'll endeavor to get you back in a second. You're still there, are you? Well, while we wait for him to come back, let's jump over to an ad break right now, and we'll be right back after this ad break.
Alone.
What on it?
Uncertainty. Doubt.
Oh, hello.
Fear. In a strange
you're back.
place.
We're just going to an ad break.
Hello.
Something stops you.
Oh, sorry.
Challenges test your strength. A rush of adrenaline. The light. The air. It is the moment. You elevated.
Life. We have goals that depend on bodies and brains. We work and learn better. We love better when our bodies and our brains function better. At Thrivous, our goal is to help you improve your brain and body, to help you achieve your goals. So that's the power we encapsulate. Ready for help with your goals? Visit Thrivous.com.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main beam undervolt. Roger, main beam undervolt. Okay, stand by, 13. We're looking at it.
All right, and welcome back to the show. So you're saying a lot of very interesting things here in terms of, defeating this issue of the ecology is definitely under attack, and it's under attack because of fear. But fear has two components, right? We've used fear to build up civilization, but the civilization has been in the whole at the expense of the planet. Now, if you micro scale those civilizations, you mentioned the Easter Islanders or the Mayans or the Romans. There's different examples out there of civilizations that have collapsed because of over energy consumption or environmental depletion, or the inefficiencies within the power structure and the constant bickering and warring. And now we're doing that on a global scale. So just as a fundamental to your thesis here in the book, what is fearism and what is eco-fearism? So what is fearism? And then what is eco-fearism? Why is eco-fearism different from fearism? Why is it a subsect? And how do we instill a positive form in eco-fearism that's not going to be used by totalitarian nations as a way to just limit our lives and depress our lives in an Orwellian sort of 1984 context, who use the environment as a way to control us and suppress us.
Okay, really, thank you for your question. And recently in the advertisement, okay, I saw the green forest, and I really like, oh, this is a very good point, right? And then theorism and eco-theorism is a little bit different, right? Theorism covers the all ideas. That theorism means, okay, in the ancient time, people used to live in the forest. They used to live in the cave, and they had the fear. And they did not have the fear. They had only the fear of killing just wild animals and feeding their stomach. And this positive fear they brought to the this concept of making house. And then again that fear brought to the concept of making farming, and then going ahead, and scientific invention, and all this modernization has come through that fear. Without fear, this world would not have become so. But the fear comes with only the knowledge, conscience. Let's see the one example. The child does not know, if the child has no knowledge about the touching of the fire, right, that burns his hand, and he does not fear and burns his hand. But when he burns his hand, and the child knows, oh, this is fearful, and he becomes conscious, and then from next time he never goes near to the fire, right? So that is one example that fear makes us conscious. Only consciousness, only knowledge, only information, only the meaning gives the concept. This fear, right? Otherwise, there would be people won't be having any fear, right? So when people have the fear of living, fear of surviving, and then they go on working, they go on inventing new things, they go on solving, addressing all the problems that comes in front of life. That is what theorism philosophy has guided. The whole world is the result of fear, right? But positive fear. If it is a negative fear, what happens? And the person, if he is guided completely with a negative fear, he either goes to depression, or goes to melancholy, and may commit suicide, or may join in terrorist activities, may go in a wrong path, and does not just come to the right track of life. So that's why I have also heard that right idea from that this philosophy of theorism, and the ideas of that Michael Fisher is talking about fear management. Yes, this is right time. We have to manage the fear. If we get all the negative news, negative concept, death and destruction, and disaster that caused by coronavirus at present, people go to the traumatic condition, people go to depression, people commit suicide. So this is a management of fear. Now it is a time to manage the fear. But eco-theorism is different from that whole principle of theorism. This eco-theorism is mainly concerned with the positive fear, keeping in the mind, and saving ecology, saving the forest, saving the animals, saving the earth, saving the sea, saving the atmosphere, saving the this chemical clouded air condition in the world, saving everything that is surrounded with our life, right? So eco-theorism has become a new branch of philosophy now, right? New concept of just protecting this Mother Earth, and then saving the life itself, not the life of individual, but the life of all living beings and living things who share in this planet Earth, right? And if all systems go in the same position in a friendly atmosphere, and then only it is possible to survive. Otherwise, the doom is coming very soon. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. The doom is coming very soon, and this is a big point. It's very true. The doom is coming soon, and we're moving towards that. With the coronavirus, we've seen, interestingly, the environment have a big shakeup since the restrictions of aircraft and the restrictions on travel. We've seen a lot of the emissions go down because of the decrease in consumption. You can see that in the air in China. You could probably see that there in Nepal, where you are. India and China both taking a bit of a break on spewing out emissions as big industrial centers. You can see this, and the potential is there, but the incentive structure of how we conduct our business, is still the same as in ancient times. It's still based on money and commerce and limited scarcity and labor pools and relative money relative to other things. And I find the collapse of the Mayan civilization in terms of its ecology. Quite fascinating. It had a lot to do with the soil, with overpopulation, with the summer and winter, with the sun cycle, with warfare, the ever bickering warfare between the states. And by the time the Spanish arrived in the Mayan civilization, they were back to almost a hunter-gatherer people, living amongst the ruins of their own civilization, and the green forests that the Spanish found there that had only just returned. They'd only just grown back. That mostly by the time of the collapse of the Mayan civilization, the forest that we know that exists there today didn't exist. It was almost a barren wasteland of farming, essentially, which you can't farm very much. And they did something similar to what the Hebrews did, where you would farm for 6 years. On the 7th year, you would rest it. They didn't exactly do this. They would rest it every 6 months, 1 month, 1 year, etc. They had time limits to rest the ground, to let the nutrients go back in and increase that would increase the crop output. But according to the records that we know, the leaderships of the different kingdoms, of Iron Kingdoms, would instruct the farmers to reduce these times, to increase crop yields, which were only a temporary phenomena. And you see this today with pesticides, and you see it with fertilizers, the overuse of fertilizers and the abuse of fertilizers, trying to keep industrial farming afloat, to feed the 7 billion going on 8 billion people that are alive today. And you also see this in the attempts to genetically modify crops. The seed bank is a wonderful thing, but the seed bank is not enough to keep the diversity of indigenous environment, those natural fauna and flora alive, that keeps the beetles and bugs in the ground that go on to fertilize and maintain life in local constituencies when it's replaced with industrial farming. And you know yourself, being in Nepal, the big problems they have in India with trying to convey industrial farming into a culture like that. They're having problems with pesticides. They have problems with GMO crops. They have problems with utilizing human labor versus American or European farmers who have trucks and tractors, etc. So it leads to it leads to a bit of human degradation in the farming apparatus there, suicides, etc. So no, it's awful in that respect, but I think we do need to start to use COVID-19 as a way to globally reset our structural thinking and our thinking on how the enterprise of humanity is working. And I think one of the things that is also it's dangerous, it's fearful, because it hasn't happened. It's an atypical. I mean, we've lived in an atypical period of globalization. The Pax Americana. The Americans have ruled the world now since World War II, and it's brought in and ushered in a huge period of globalization. And because of the mechanism of that Pax Americana, because of the mechanism of that American-led world order, we've had peace and prosperity, but we've also had peace and prosperity with the expense of the natural environment globally, around the world. And I think localism is returning in a big way, whether that's local manufacturing, local agriculture, etc. And, you know, that will mean that we will have a period going on where maybe we won't be importing foreign plants and foreign animals into our local communities. We will start returning to localized environmental figures, because one of the fears that you're touching on is it's of global consequence. But as soon as you start to think of sorting out the global issue of the environment, it's actually too big for our imaginations to handle. When I say to you, Doctor, you have to go and save the Amazon rainforest, it's too big to handle. It's too big of a challenge that we can't grasp our head around. So one of the first instincts is to almost give up in a fear-like manner. Your fear of the enormity of the problem is almost to give up. And I think one of the interesting facets of the depletion of Pax Americana will mean that people will turn to their local communities and they say, all right, let's forget about the world for a second. What can I do to clean up my own river? What can I do to clean up what can I do to get my local rodents and invasive species out of this area? And everybody doing that all over the earth simultaneously is the solution, rather than some sort of big coordinated effort from some big multilateral government thing that says, we need to, because we've seen this, with Brazil, right? The world doesn't want Brazil to chop down more rainforests, but they voted in Bolsonaro and they're trying to push indigenous people out, and they say one thing and the world says another, the lungs of the planet, all of that stuff. So, I think the solutions are going to come from a more localized consciousness, out of a positive fear from a sort of almost a neo-selfish revelation in local arenas. Does that mean there's no place for governments? Does that mean there's no place for regional entities to do stuff? No. Does that mean there's no place for the United Nations or UNESCO? No. That still means they play a huge role in assisting governments and regional entities to protect vast wildernesses and vast wildlife that keep our world afloat. But the reason is if we don't start to think in these sorts of ways, we're going to have an environmental degradation on a global scale that relates to the death of the human race as we know it. I don't think an environmental destruction is the absolute end of humanity. I think we would just go back to an earlier age. I think because there would still be plants to eat, there'd still be calories to drink. We're not talking about atomic war where everything's irradiated. We're talking about complex civilization as we know it. Technological civilization, a pre-eco civilization collapsing, and people returning to the earth, people returning back to a simpler state. And I think that is kind of the fear, that the technological prowess of our civilization will collapse. Externalize, all the other things about nuclear war and this and that. That's not what we're talking about. If it's just an environmental collapse, even in doomsday scenario, Day After Tomorrow, which is a fiction, right? Or 2012 or something like that. These are fictions where the New York is wiped out by these mega storms and everything. Even in those movies, which is dramatic and dramatized, the people survive and the people go on. The reason that they were upset is because they lost the technological standards of their civilization, which doesn't have to happen. We don't have to happen, but what we do have to do is we have to utilize a positive fear to move into an eco-civilization, so that we can maintain our technological standards, our knowledge, and move forward with nature instead of being pre-industrial and industrial, where nature is unseen as an entity that you can grasp at forever and use as a mechanism of growth. What say you? We'll get the doctor back in just a sec.
That's a good point. But
yep, he's back.
Yes. Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, that's a very good point, right? We cannot escape from the technology. That's a new technology that's being developed, and this is the world village, right? In isolation, no nation can live in isolation. So in this global village, we should start that preserving ecosystem, and why not to go to organic agricultural activities, organic farming, instead of using pesticides, insecticides. We should not spoil the soil capacity to produce, right? And we should return back to this cultural, good, maybe more useful and healthier than the pesticides and other insecticides used products, right? And we should preserve the activities what we are doing at present, right? And then simultaneously we must live with the other living just creatures and living just beings with ecosystem, with friendly atmosphere. See, the Brazil, you talked before that Brazil had just started planting trees now. It is what the global effort should be there for the preservation of the earth. Not but global effort comes from the local activities. Local people can start doing the work from local level. Local people should become conscious from their just conscience, from their activities, what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong, how they are preserving, how they, and if these local people become conscious on time and they apply the just locally their in environmental conserving, and then organic stuff, farming, and then planting and then saving the on doing, and then it becomes possible, right? This more technological world has not come. This is a necessity. There are many countries maybe backward only because of the technology, and then the technological handling should be friendly with the protection of ecology and environment, and then these local levels position should be properly maintained, and local people can start.
Sir, we've lost your volume. You've muted your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
That's
sorry.
okay.
Right? Okay. And then see, it is the coronavirus has brought a kind of paradigm shift. Now the industrialized also can be placed in harmful for ecological and environmental industries in the town center industries, somewhere where there is no environmental better position. Why not to establish there in the tree less grounds, somewhere desert like place established there, and reforestation should be brought done from even from those industrialized areas where we establish. So we have to be very much concerned about preserving all the ecosystems, all the this production system, and our activities should not action to all.
Mr. Bhawani, your internet is a little poor. We're going to jump over an ad break while see if you can just move towards your modem over there. We'll be right back after this ad break.
Okay, it's all right. Okay, maybe the internet is not working well, right?
Alone.
It's all right. It would be really all right.
Uncertainty.
This positive action we should start from the
Doubt.
all around the world, right?
Yeah, we will do that.
Hello? Yes,
In a strange place.
yes, that's
Something
a good point.
stops
And
you.
then, see, this condition should be just started from the local level, and the whole world's local places should be active, should be just with their knowledge. It is the ignorance they do not save. It is the ignorance they destroy. It is the ignorance they do not know what is right and what is wrong. See, the local level people must know these things, and that is what should be there in the curriculum. That's what I told you. There should be in the curriculum of the junior levels, in school levels, in college levels, and they just spread the knowledge. They give the knowledge to the people, and then automatically all the levels of people become active, and then it is a joint work, not individual work. It is a joint global activities, global principle. See, this earth is becoming quite warmer day to day, and this is also the result of a fear, and we must have positive fear. If they, what will be the result of it? So that certainly works positively to protect and to preserve, to conserve, to save this whole world's humanity, human life and civilization. That's why we must have the fear in protection, in preservation of ecology and environment. So we cannot survive alone, right, with the destruction of all other living beings and living things. Human beings are becoming a master, and people should not think that they are the master. Now, coronavirus has become the master of all human beings who had imagined this sort of situation before. Now, what will be the future again? What sort of virus comes and then will master us, right? That is what we should not be just over exploring, over exploiting to anything that is found either in the local level or in the global village, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Hello?
you mentioned this idea of the master and the subservient, and yeah, for a while, humans were getting to that point where there became hubris. There became this sense of invincibility over the earth and over the environment, and it was born out of a rapid technological, political, sociological advancement. Big time exhibited in the 20th century. The 20th century was a big reckoning for the world in terms of ideological sort of conflicts, which hadn't been seen prior to. Ideology sat front and center in that century, and the problem with it happening in that century is that the environmental issue hadn't yet been awakened, and now people were cognizant of things like coronavirus, the flu, the Spanish flus, etc. So people were cognizant of human vulnerability to diseases. That wasn't new. Coming out of they were cognizant of the ability of and the virtues of the Enlightenment era, and they were skeptical on both sides of whatever European conflict that you wanted to take of religion, whether that would be the communists who wanted to absolutely decimate and push religion out of the theater of the human mind, or if you wanted to defend it, and there was various cultures that wanted to defend it, which was a hangover from the Dark Ages, essentially. But it was all those issues, but the environment never really came onto the plate, except for Adolf Hitler, the Nazis, who started to enact environmental laws. And I think that since the Americans and the Soviets won the Second World War, and that the Nazis initiated these environmental laws, it gave the environment a bad name that they didn't really talk about again for the rest of the century, because they were the victors. They triumphed. Everything that the Germans ever did was bad, and they initiated these laws. Therefore, these laws must have been totalitarian in nature. So you eventually had an elimination of the environmental dialogue within any circles that actually mattered. Now, these dialogues in the later half of the 20th century started to pop up, but they popped up from the people that were being most impacted. That's indigenous people, that's the world community people. And if you're in charge of a society, America, the battle in Seattle, I remember the battle in Seattle quite well. If you were in charge of the world society at that point, which is the Congress and the Senate in the United States, Washington, D.C., and you don't want to cede power to global organizations who are giving voices to indigenous people who are saying, hey, we don't want our polluted rivers. We don't want to see our beautiful big old trees chopped down for paper. You have forests. Just stop using so much paper. You have your own forests for that. You can regrow. There's a bunch of issues and with the environment that pop from the bottom up, and there's still, even in the later of the 20th century, these were quite voiceless narratives. And I think it wasn't even early in the 21st century that we had these issues. They were still popping up from the bottom into the top level. Now, I think you hit about 2010 and everything starts to shift, because the people at the top of these systems, whether that be China, whether that be Washington, D.C., whether the European Union, whoever, and developing countries, India, for example, or Africa, who are going to go on this dirty curve, started to wake up and say, hey, the planet itself cannot take this transition from rags to riches in this way. And so there was a global awakening on that, but there also wasn't a solution. It was a fearism. It was a fear, an economic fear, a fear of social change, a fear of technological change, a fear of an interruption in the world order of things, a fear of new technologies and new innovations, and a fear of changing power dynamics that really awakened everybody to the environmental issue. And I think a lot of people are pushing that fear of ecological collapse into the space initiative. Now, that in itself is not a solution. I'm a big advocate of the space initiative. We're having Malik back on. We're going to keep talking about space. I love the space programs and stuff. But I think people, instead of facing the issues and facing the problems head on and saying we need to address these issues, like Greta Thunberg, for example, has got people walking up and down. They're advocating for it. But what really will come of this will have to be seen, because these are now middle class to upper middle class people who are trying to talk to the top echelons of their nationalist societies, saying, hey, we those indigenous people, they weren't wrong, but now we're dealing with the same consequences. Firstly, they exported the consequences. Now the consequences are starting to come back in the form of cancers, in the form of food shortages, in the form of locusts and plagues and all sorts of bad things that are going on. But these middle people all across the world who are realizing that other middle class people are starting to take and almost steal, even though that's kind of not right, their ability to jump away from this, they're funneling that energy into the space race, because they still don't want to face. It's kind of like building a Mayflower and escaping Europe, because you won't face up to the problems of persecution. You want to escape to a new place, a new country, a new land, a new frontier, instead of dealing with the problems that are inherent around you. And we have to learn we have to learn. I'm fearful for Mars. I'm fearful for the moon. I'm fearful the asteroid belts. I'm fearful for our own creations in space, that we're not going to learn the issues here on Earth. We're going to make it, and then we're going to export the problems because we didn't learn, we didn't think, and we didn't sort them out. We escaped without actually rethinking our mind. What do you think? It's the fear, because of the fear of transition. The fear of acknowledgement, the fear that we might have done something wrong.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Ideologies, anti-political principles, and whatever it is, the philosophy of that politics can survive only if we are safe. And ideology doesn't matter if there is no life, if there is no earth, if there is no people, right? And if the fear of only ideology people run after, that becomes almost useless. Let's have the fear first to see this ecosystem, this ecology. This let's have a plan. Let's make a policy of one man with one tree, if possible, in the world, right? To plant and to preserve at any rate. If it is impossible, one house, one tree policy, right? And if we introduce this from the policy makers, from the authority, and if people are compelled to do it, and automatically the whole world turns into the paradise, like heaven, like just houses inside the green forest, right? And then if the central government can make a plan and just give the local government, please plant at least the trees on this side of the roads. All the roads, maybe small footpaths and around the places, and then where people walk. And if that people do not continue it, and the central government can block the save money, that is amount, until and unless they do that. And this sort of policies, if they make, if the government what happens, and people automatically start working that and then they automatically start saving the ecology and environment. It is a lack of policy. It is not only indigenous people. It is not only in poverty. Even those people living in the poverty, right, and educated right on time, if they are given the knowledge about this value of these ecosystem earth and preserving all the life, animals, and all the systems of the world, and if they have a kind of positive fear in the mind, if they destroy those things surroundings around their life, and they are destroying their own life, and they become conscious and start working, coming in the practical work. So words are not important, actions are important. Words should come in the action-oriented activities. See, South Koreans have just planted trees in the desert areas with much labor, and then they turn into the green forest. Even in Brazil, people are doing plantation all around the world who are conscious. They are doing, right, and then good work. But this sort of work should go in all levels of the people, not only in certain levels of the conscious people who know. And there are the people who know about the destruction of the ecology, environment, and this earth, but they just speak, but they do not have the plan. They do not have the policy. They do not come with their writing. They do not come with their advice. They do not come in these people to save this whole world. Why I have talked especially, we people have talked especially about ECO-FEARISM. Fear should be there. Only fear helps us to protect these systems. If we do not have the fear in our conscience, and then we become almost empty in our mind, and empty mind cannot do anything else, any creative activities. And why not start from the single step, see the planting the trees. I have told somewhere in the text, the whole world can exist. This one Sikkim was a kind of small state before, but later it became just part of India, one state of India. The sovereignty is lost of that Sikkim, It has become the sovereignty of Sikkim has gone to the Indian the Sikkim sovereignty. But still that Sikkim people are surviving. But still that people are surviving. But if that ecosystem, ecology, earth gets lost, and who can survive? It is greater than sovereignty. It is greater than anything else in the world, right? So this is the quite essential and meaningful, useful thing. That is what is to be deeply rooted in the conscience of the people to get the positive fear, positive concept, and then let's move to the joint action in the global village to protect the global this environment. Only preserving one ecological and environmental condition in one part of the earth is not enough. So this fear should come, eco-fearism should come in the minds of the rulers, in the minds of the physicians, in the minds of those scientists who are doing just experiments by healing, by having a lot of just experimentation in the labs, chemical labs and science labs, in other labs, right? And then even the rulers, right? The powerful rulers, superpowers, see these nations, they should come to realize, oh, what the fact is, how we can save the world, what will be the future after 20 years, after 100 years, after 200 years. This is not only for us. This is the earth to be saved for others, for generation to generation, right? So we can just do something only if we save this one. If we cannot save this, and we are doing nothing else. We are just let's see, killing ourselves, murdering ourselves. That is the concern. That is the worries we have to take care of by the whole population of the world. That is what I believe, right?
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I want to ask you a question. We're going to come right back after this ad break, and I'm going to ask you about the population and fearism in the population, and how we can act. We can talk about. Let's talk about fearism in the global population. How we can dig into a positive fearism. I'll be right back after this quick ad break from our sponsor.
Okay.
Life. We have goals that depend on bodies and brains. We work and learn better. We love better when our bodies and our brains function better. At Thrivous, our goal is to help you improve your brain and body, to help you achieve your goals. So that's the power we encapsulate. Ready for help with your goals? Visit Thrivous.com.
All right, we're back, and we're talking about ECO-FEARISM. It's a very, very good book. I recommend it to everybody in the world, but especially to the Transhumanist Party, those readers there. If you're a fan of TAFs, also, TAFs down here, you got to get yourself this book. You got to read it because the ecology, the environment of the whole world is absolutely, it's of utmost importance right now. But what we're talking about is this concept of fearism. And now there's this sort of interesting thing with fearism. Fear is not all negative. Fear is not bad. It's not all bad, as we might always think. Fear is bad. And this is a sort of a semi-new conception. You can see fear related into the stories, weaved into the stories of who we are as humans. They come out as, the Brothers Grimm have told, story after story after story of, fearful tales of Little Red Riding Hood going into that forest, and the big, the monsters, or David and Goliath, going up against the big, fearsome monster of Goliath and taking him on with just a simple sling. We have many, many stories in history of how we've overcome our fears, or how gods, which are the best and the worst of what our mind can conceive, how our gods have gone and overcome their fears and created and destroyed and done things in our own in the perception. Now, we've got to this point where we have two different conceptions of fear. We have negative fear, we have positive fear. And in terms of the environment, I want to ask you, how do we start to implement, how do we start to drive the population so that they can think in a positive fear mechanism on the environment? How can we use technological civilization instead of for bad, for good, but driving this idea of positive fearism?
It's all right. That's good. Okay. And then what happened exactly? Even people over the world is becoming overpopulated already. The land is not increasing, and population is increasing day to day. And with the increase of the population, see, the people go on. Only the solution of increased population is to just cut down the trees and change that forest into farmland for more production of foods, for more production of other things, right? And then for more construction of buildings, they need woods, right? And then they cut down the trees. So there is a very close relationship between the deforestation and overpopulation. The more people, the more land is required, the more food is required, the more houses are required. And then the more population make the more houses, and the more trees are fell down, cut down. This is another misfortune, right? So the world should introduce even the plan of population control, not only educating the people how to preserve the trees, how to preserve the forest, how to preserve ecology and environment, and how to make the healthy environment in the world. Rather, the government and the people or the whole world's nations must make policy in China one child. Use more than one child in China, right? And recently, maybe there is a case of giving birth to 2 child, right? This is a policy. And at present, now this mechanical world has become quite life has become just like a working machine. People are quite busy. They do not want to just leave without job, without work. They don't want to be dependent with the husbands and somebody else, right? So automatically the present modern world, European world, industrialized world, the world where people are quite busy, do not want to give birth more to the child, even a single child, right? So childbirth rate is increasing only in the backward nations, only in the on advanced nations where they do not get opportunities, job opportunities, where they do not become busy. And it is also sometimes maybe the religion, because of religion, people think that using contraceptives, family planning is a crime, and they do not want to do this. This sort of principles, this sort of let's say traditional beliefs should be eradicated, and this should be educated. This should be educated that it's not a crime. Okay, people go on giving birth more than 10, 12 children by one parent, a couple, right? That's harmful. So what happens? The global population should be with this control. It should be, population also should be controlled. That's a good point. And maybe recently in Japan, there is the scarcity of let's say workers, right? And the prime minister exactly of Japan's prime minister wants more workers in the country. So if the population growth also goes on in horizontal position, that is also harmful. It should be balanced. Population birth rate and death rate should come in a balance. That is that also again depends upon the policy making. That again depends upon the facilities, how the people get there just in their countries. And then the people should have a kind of positive concept in the population growth, in the limitation of the childbirth rate, right, throughout the world. And then these whole people of the world should have the knowledge about the ecosystem again. Sooner or later comes the idea of ECO-FEARISM. There should be fear in ecology. There should be fear of destruction of ecology and environment. There should be fear of destruction of any animals. There should be fear of destruction of any plants and anything so that is living around their life, right? Around their areas, in local areas, right? So if these all people are educated with this concept, with this principle, and they start, perhaps they may not know in the beginning at once, but we should go on repeating time and again. We should go on imposing the ideas more and more through the media, through the let's see, this governments, radios, FMs, and wherever. See, in coronavirus at present, what happens if we ring someone and there comes the information, oh, please wash your hands, put your gloves, and be safe, and then you can only just become safe from the death of the coronavirus infection. And if we put this sort of information to all the system of the communication, if they ring somewhere, and why not to give the message that sort of ringtone goes in their ear, oh, please save ecology, oh, have the fear of ecology preservation, oh, have the fear of protection of trees, and fear of protection of all the living beings and things in your locality, in your localities, in your areas. If that sort of information goes every time they ring, every time they just see them, they use these modern devices, these medias and just instruments, and then they automatically just sooner or later get their ideas in their conscience. Oh, all the time information is coming. Is the coronavirus fear information is entering into their mind? In the same way, why not to enter this sort of fear, positive fear in their minds, and then make them active, right? Make them quite conscious about this environmental and ecological and this earth, destruction and all these things. This is the one way, right? One policy that heads of the states, heads of the governments should develop that sort of concept. So that all the information in their these devices automatically they should see first, right? Oh, fearism, in eco-fearism. Oh, save the trees. Oh, save the any animals around where you are. Please, saving these animals means saving yourself, right? Saving the tree means saving your own life. Saving the plants means saving your whole world. This is not saving only you. This is saving to others. If the message is going on, wash your hands, right? Put your gloves, then use sanitizers and have a social distancing. All the media are focusing to the global people at present about the coronavirus. And why not to develop this sort of principle, and there is in the ecosystem, eco-fearism. If we start doing this sort of, this is another policy, this is another technique, then consists how to save the world, how to save the ecology, how to save the earth, how to save the anything that they need to do, isn't it? Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think these are all really good points. And I want to say, I remember a good book, Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. I read it. It's a great book. It's a dystopian novel about future American society, written in 1953 or somewhere like that. And, I feel like what happened is modern tech. There's this interesting point where in a modern technological society, there's a tipping point where the society can choose to fear and positive fear its transition into an ecological civilization, or the fear that it might have a reduction in living standards for its citizens pushes it to try and maintain the status quo. And I think very few civilizations going from one to another to another to another actually survive that transitional phase. And Fahrenheit 451, they had these people called firemen, Okay, firemen. And what did the firemen do? In our societies today, firemen, they go out to fight fires, right? You get a call on the phone and off they go to fight fires, and the people get their house doused, and hopefully you maintain your house. In Fahrenheit 451, these firemen were book burners, and what they were doing is they were running around the society burning books. Why? Because their goal was to make the society so ignorant and so stupid and so blasé about all the social, all the things going on, even though they were in a war in this novel, not to worry about anything but TV, the radio, pop stars, music, sex, pornography, all that sort of stuff. And to forget history, to not learn the lessons of history, and not get the positive fearism, live in the fear that any change is bad, and not get that positive fearism and flick into a super technological society or a super ecological society or something different than a sort of dystopian, fast-paced, every time in their world, if you felt depressed, you would take drugs sanctioned by the state, you would spy on your neighbors. It was a dystopian thing, but the fear of change was massive, and I feel like we're in that today. I feel like people themselves aren't allowed to fear, because every time there's controlled fear, there's fear that comes through the media. It's always another bad guy, another army, another state, another terrorist group, the environment as a whole collective. You're taught to fear a lot of things. Fear, if you're in America, you fear the other side. You fear the red, you fear the blue, whichever side you're on. But actual solutions, the actual tipping of the civilization into a different mode is actually too hard for the state to do. So they actually put their own progress on hold. Do you think that there has to be a change in the psychology of people in order to a mass awakening, consciousness actually? Do you think people need to be more conscious of where they are at that where they are in the global system, so that they can tip their civilizations over into a more ecological, eco-fearism perspective? Do you think there needs to be a global awakening on consciousness? We will get the gentleman back.
Yes. It's how role of the parents play. What the parents play. What sort of role the parents play in the K2.
The parents. All right, we will get the gentleman back. We will go to a short ad break, and then we'll...
Challenges test your strength. A rush of adrenaline.
All right, you're back.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're right. You disappeared.
Yes.
So you were talking about the parents.
And yes, what I think, right, last time I visited there in the USA in ITEA program on March 10 to 14, right? And what I found there, I went to Tennessee, and there was, I visited in a swimming pool, and there was a white mother with 3 small kids. And I really, that whole activity really struck my mind. What she said, 3 boys, small kids were playing. And one of the boys was uprooting the plant. And the mother said, "Hey boy, do not uproot that plant. That is your life. That is required for your survival." And then the child stopped that uprooting the plant, taking the plant out, right? So it is the role of the parents, how they display to grow up their children. If they play proper role, if they give education from the just very beginning is that what mother did there, and that I really thought, oh, how good she is educating, she's giving the knowledge to her kids about the ecology and the plants and the trees and values of trees related with the life from the very maybe 5 years infant, maybe 4 or 5, 6 years, 3, 4, 5 children were there, and I got surprised, right? Oh, this is the way of educating the children. This is the way of preserving the ecosystem. This is the way of awakening the whole world in the conscience, in making them conscious. And then again, I stayed in the house of Ashok Panta there in Newark for 3 days. And what happened? All the deers, whatever, deers especially in the forest, that was the house inside the forest, almost the trees. And I thought, oh, the houses are being built inside the trees. Why not these sort of houses in my country? Why not these sort of houses in Delhi, in India? There in many towns, big well-known great cities like Chicago. Why not to plant the trees? And then their deers came in the house around. They did not have the fear with the animals, with the human beings. They were like friends with the human beings, and I got surprised. Oh, this is another technology. We need to rear the animals, wild animals, like our friends, and they do not just feel afraid. They do not scared of any human beings. That is what I felt myself is my experience there, right? So why we cannot change the consciousness, mind of the people of the whole globe, right? Through this sort of education, we can bring the consciousness, but the consciousness of this preserving ecosystem should impart to the kids, to the children, to the all levels of the children, mainly by the parents, by the teachers, by the educators, by the environmentalists, by the social media, by the government policies, by the heads of the states, by the heads of the governments. And if we start initiate this sort of actions from the very beginning, it automatically becomes possible. It is not impossible. That's why I recall the word impossible is only in the diary of a foolish, right? It is nowhere. We can do if we really think from our inner heart, inner conscience. There should not be only outer words. We must be motivated from the heart, and then we should come in the action with the motivation of the inner this feeling, inner heart, inner conscience. It is absolutely possible, but takes time. Cannot become like a magic. It's not a magic, but it takes time. But slowly and gradually, automatically, it happens. That sort of generation, that sort of people, that sort of new generation is to be enhanced, is to be developed. That is in our hand. That is in the hands of the parents. That is in the hands of the educators and environmentalist experts. And then perhaps roll up all those people who are conscious about this degrading condition of the earth, ecology, environment. So let's not have only negative here. Let's have positive here. Let's move, preserving everything. And this is possible. Don't you believe so? Don't you think so?
Absolutely. And I think, we're talking about fundamental ideas of positive fearism being in the context of self-preservation. And I think, we're not Stone Age people anymore. We're a different type of creature. We're a different type of being with certain instincts. And what you're talking about is a new way of harnessing those primal instincts to transform them into a positive fearism in which will work in a modern society. And that comes through the education mechanism, either from the family or through the state or through homeschooling initiatives, etc., in terms of the educational arena. And this has to be implemented in all levels of societies, and as well as through human beings as a whole. Because if we do have a raising of conscious awareness, people can do whatever it is that was within their power, in their scope, in their own communities, to impact different. If you're a UN observer, if you have national or international power, you can use that because of your educational facility. But most of us will be locked into local constituencies, local communities, corporate ventures, or philosophical or academic, or real life on the ground ventures that can relate. And a lot of corporations are fearful. They're fearful in the negative sense because they fear that the EPA or some of these bureaucracies can use their power to inhibit their productive capacity, whether that's selling more goods and services, or telling them where or where they can't build an industrial plant, or if they can do X, Y, or Z because of environmental needs. And there has to be a negative fear in that way, because we have to be skeptical of governments and their reasons for things. If they say don't build a plant there because we have to maintain the ecological structure, but then they build a big airbase there, we know that that's not right? So those corporations should be skeptical in that way. We also know that we shouldn't blame populations for causing the environmental destruction to an extent where they feel guilty and hemmed into not doing anything, while they subsidize corporations around the world having a negative impact on the environment, whether that be industrial mining at the expense of the environment, or pesticides, or manufacturing things, or dumping chemicals into river to cut costs, or whatever. These are atrocities, and these are negative impacts on the world. And we've seen, especially late 20th century, early 2000s, and it's built since then, that this environmental positive fearism from the population towards corporations, that dump chemicals in rivers, or that do illegal mining or illegal fishing or whatever, has grown in strength over time, and the animosity has been poured out against them. And we are seeing now that the environmental movement is swinging around, and it is hitting governments finally, where they do want people and the government and to actually start to take a stand. And and even on what they're taking a stand on. I mean, the negative fear from the government, California is a great example of this. The negative fear from the government was, well, we won't get votes and we won't maintain power if we don't look like we're doing something. So they built a bunch of projects which are totally the so-called green projects, with wind farms and weird apparatuses of sundials and sun capture mechanisms, but that turned out to be gas plants, and they were huge subsidies for the mineral corporations that had to extract all the rare earth minerals, and they admitted this, and this came out. That sort of negative fearism, where they use propaganda, is also incorrect, and it's also wrong. But it's better than not trying. You know what I mean? The proliferation of the wood chip burners across the United States is again one of these negative fearism consequences that's born out of the propaganda. You can't trust the propaganda that's coming out of the environmental movement just because it's got a green logo. BHP, just because it's got a green logo doesn't mean it's environmentally friendly. So these companies and these governments reacting in a negative fearism as trying to hide themselves from the population can't and has to be vigilant and has to be aware of the experts, people like yourself, and push the positive fearism and keep the pressure on them always, because human corruption, trying to minimize cost structures, corporates and governments joining together. And this also does mean a refreshing of the justice system. Because, a big problem with the justice system is because it's funded essentially by the state, and they're supposed to be, especially in America, the legal system is supposed to be outside of government. It's supposed to be fair. It's supposed to be fair against for all. Nobody is supposed to be. Everybody is supposed to be under the law, including corporations who are deemed as a person. But the problem is that because they're on the government payroll and because they sit up and they feel big and they have all these criminals and law, they feel like they're part of the state and they start leaning towards the state. And this needs a refresher of the justice system to remind the justice system that nobody, no corporation, no government is under the law. And we're talking about the potential extinction of their own power. Their own power system can evaporate if the environment disappears from underneath their feet. And they're sitting in a sandcastle, essentially. And we, the people, the government, the system, humanity as a whole, we don't want them to sit in a sandcastle. We want them to maintain a fair, honest position, but they need the environment and we need the environment in order for that system to maintain itself. So there has to be a positive fearism that comes through society, from corporations, from governments, where they don't react in the negative. They stop reacting in the negative and they start reacting in the positive towards a better future for the environment and for humanity as whole, so we don't go extinct as a species, and we don't make a big mess on other planets, which is also a big problem. Because if we make a mess the first time, we could expand that mess out almost infinitely across the universe, and that's not what we want to do either. I do not want to see a spilling out of a giant mess all across the universe. I want to see a flourishing of green everywhere.
Yes, you're right. And then another point, see, especially bureaucrats are more responsible to implement the policies and plans. And then bureaucrats mobilize even the politicians if they are really intellectual, if they are really capable enough, right? Bureaucrats is the permanent government. And the permanent government should make a permanent policy with the initiation of the politicians too. Right, but unfortunately, bureaucrats are self-motivated for the individual interest of earning, corruption, right? And that is the misfortune, right? If the bureaucrats are freely working without self-interest, without individual interest of making black money or something else, and then the person, that sort of bureaucrats never gets scared to bring the strong, good policy in front of the so much powerful presidents or the prime ministers. It doesn't matter. Truth is always truth, and the truth wins. Truth gets the victory. That fact must be presented in present, without in front of the rulers or whatever the powerful, maybe the policy makers, but should not be scared to come with the truth, to come with the fact. Truth is quite bitter. So when we are talking about this eco-fearism and the fearism of that saving the pertinence, these eco-balance in the world, and we are without any interest. We are talking about the whole humanity. So we don't fear with anybody else. So we can talk freely. But those who have something reservation in their heart cannot just present their argument freely. Cannot bring their inner thoughts to the public. That is the defect of the bureaucrats in the whole world. I don't blame any bureaucrats, but this is more or less that is the defect. Whatever I feel, I realize, I don't know what maybe in the other countries, but this is my experience. The little bit there's studied experience of the whole world. So some of the people, some of the bureaucrats do not want to bring the policy of preserving the trees, forests. Why? Because there are the many jobs are there in the forest. Jobs are in timber corporations, and then they are getting commissions, maybe some sort of amount indirectly. And if they bring that sort of policy and then just pass it as, make it as a rule, a law, and then preserve what they think, maybe there would be no cut up their income, and they are afraid perhaps inwardly. So all the world, maybe bureaucrats of the world, permanent governments of the world, system should come with this awareness, with this concept, with this belief, with this positive thought of preserving ecosystem. They should know what happens. They are living. They are not going to be bureaucrats forever. 1,000 years, right? They are the bureaucrats of 50 years, maybe 40 years, right? Maybe 20 years. And why should they become quite just greedy for motivated with the self-interest for the destruction of ecology and environment only in the name of saving, preserving job and money and some of the people's position? That is quite harmful, isn't it? Don't you think so? What do you believe in it?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And that's a fear, that transition or phase, fear of losing your job, your fear of economic security and all that, those negative fears, absolutely ingrained into the whole society. And as much as we like to think of the global village in that way, when it comes down to it, people are quite primeval about protecting themselves and their status as whatever that is. And it usually hits a sort of an apex depending on your wealth income, your wealth and income, of how much you're willing to look the other way when it concerns some of these issues, especially in negative fearism context. And that that's not good. And I think that's why you're saying that it has to start with education, and it has to start with a realization, and it has to start with sort of these primal instincts of who, what, where, when, and why. I want to ask you about social movements. We've seen social movements like Extinction Rebellion. We've seen social movements, coming up in late times, especially a lot around Greta Thunberg. What do you think of people like Greta Thunberg and Extinction Rebellion, who are putting these environmental issues on a front and center stage, and they're going to a lot of effort to really spray their message everywhere, sometimes with negative results, sometimes with very good results. What do you think of Greta Thunberg and movements that are arising, such as Extinction Rebellion?
It's all right. We should not have the fear of either a positive result or negative result. We must move in the action. Either it can be negative or positive, but we must always have positive conscience in our mind. Always should have positive thought, positive concept in the mind, and then move ahead. And if we have positive thought, it naturally becomes a positive result. Why to expect the negative result? See, this thing, the Lee Kuan, the prime minister ruler of Singapore, he had a vision, and what he said, if he did not plant the trees there in Singapore, and then there would be desertification, there would be just a drought, there would be lack of farming, agriculture, and he himself planted more than 10 million trees in Singapore, right? So Singapore, he turned that a green city because of his single effort, single action, right? And another Thangari Maathai, there is from Kenya. She became the prime minister and minister also, right? Environmental minister. She also planted more than 10 million trees herself, right? There are so many people doing social. They are the models for the movement, for the eco-reservation, for the conservation of ecology and environment. And these morals people should be followed. These morals should be highlighted in the world, right? In the whole scenario of other people, and their good actions must be initiated, and then that must be carried out. So social movement should not be only in the form of this just their name and fame. Their social movement should be real action, should be not for advertisement, should be not for that should be for the work's sake. That should be for the real action. That is what is required. So in the name of social movement, see, there are many people, they fight for human rights. And why? That is for human rights, for gaining, owning, right? That is indirect process. They are earning. They are raising some of the voices up for human rights, but in reality, they are not from inner side. Maybe I'm not talking all about the world's people, but maybe somewhere that is what I think. And then they may not be motivated from their inner heart. So people who are moving, having a social movement for the eco protection, ecological protection, right? And if they are really motivated with the fear, positive fear of eco-fearism in the mind, they naturally come, and then they become the model for the people, right, of the whole globe. See, from Brazilian to couples, they planted number of trees, and they have become the model now. And so these all Gulf countries, desert have been changed into Greenland. They have become the model for the rest of the world, right? And there are so many people they are doing, but it has not come in all levels of the people. It has not touched to the minds and conscience and hearts of all the levels of people of the corners of the world, of the globe. See, people listen only. And until and unless it does not touch to their heart, they do not come to the action. So listening and touching their heart is a different thing, right? So our action, our policies, our ideas should touch them. That's why I have told you why not to put this certificate text eco-fearism in the course curriculum, in the school curriculum, in the university curriculum. Why not to go on writing these sort of things and putting in the mass media, and then convert the whole conscience of the global people in a positive way, in a positive track. That is what our belief is, and this is our responsibility as the citizen of the world. Why to think only the citizen of certain countries? We have to think now as the citizen of the world, responsible citizen of the world, responsible to save the whole world, responsible to save this biosphere, whole system of the life cycle of the animals and human beings of the globe, isn't it? Don't you think so?
Absolutely, and I like your use of Lee Kuan Yew, Prime Minister of Singapore, there in example. Another one is Jacinda Ardern, and also a collection of African countries that are building the Great Green Wall. And until recently, Brazil itself was doing a huge part as a global leader in the environmental movement, pushing ahead with a lot of the environmental frontier stuff, which has been rolled back now as they rolled back essentially their EPA, their Environmental Protection Agency, into the Department of Agriculture, which has put a stop to some of that progress. And they actually got a lot of benefits out of that as well, with integration with foreign firms such as Google and satellite companies that were assisting in the tracking and tracing, which has been rolled back, which is hurting their technology sector. So there are negatives to attacking, supporting one industry over another. They've had a dip in their technology sector for the fact that they've pulled out of some of these initiatives. But yes, the Great Green Wall in Africa, absolutely. That was another one that has gone totally unhighlighted. And again, that's coming not out of the benevolence of a couple of African countries, but that's because we've got the Sahara Desert encroaching on their very way of life. And if you take that example out and you push it to the world, that's exactly what's happening on a global scale, going back to what you talked about in the context of the Easter Islanders or the Mayans, etc. And, we can't keep building these statues of Easter Islanders in terms of industrial plants and dirty manufacturing, etc. We can't worship the gods of endless consumption forever, or we will go the way of the Easter Islanders as a collective, and that's a horrible notion. But yes, I think that this is the century of the eco-revolution. I think if it's not, I think that will be a devastating. A lot of these mayors in these countries, that are faced with going underwater. It started in Indonesia, as you know. Indonesia, Jakarta is sinking into the ocean, and they're moving the capital city now. $38 billion last time I checked. A reconstruction effort underway there. Bangladesh, as you know, is under grave threat from environmental changes, and that's causes big problems for their neighbors, whether that be India or Burma, China, and other states in the area, including Australia, with the rise of refugees all the way down here. So no, it's a global issue, and the more displaced people that you see. I've been reading your book, and you know, an interesting phase that I'm not sure, I haven't seen, that would have been good to talk about, is the late Bronze Age collapse. The late Bronze Age collapse is extremely interesting if you correlate it to our civilization. The late Bronze Age was the most advanced that we've seen. I think more advanced than the Iron Age and some of the early Greco-Roman stuff in terms of how advanced it was as a civilization. But, environmental problems, earthquakes, famines, the initiation of iron, the growing refugee problem. There was a whole host of issues that led to the collapse of that great technological civilization in the late Bronze Age. And that really did set us back into a dark age, which was arguably much worse than the dark ages of the medieval times, of the dark age of Europe, because at least with Europe, they didn't have they had enough technology to sort of buffer them through, to get through to the Age of Enlightenment and scientific principles, whereas the Bronze Age really, because there was not that sort of technology yet, they really just decimated those societies, and people really went back to living in caves for a long time until new civilizations rose up. And I think the civilization, the global civilization, really does have to swallow its pride and start to make advancements into being a ecological civilization, a positive, fearless civilization in terms of safeguarding the environment. That being the Great Barrier Reef. The environment of the Brazil. You have a lot of environment up there. Ecology and stuff in the United States. That's been neglected. But in fairness, the United States has safeguarded a lot of the environment as well through national parks, which was a great invention. So there's a mixed bag of opportunities and lessons that we can learn. But I agree, it's going to take consciousness. It's going to take neo sort of fearism, positive fearism, education, and a sort of a primal awakening of our own threat, and you have to. And that threat has to be made cognizant within people, so that they eventually take action on these things, and it's even small things like when you jump on a plane, it says, do you want to pay $1 or $2 more for your $300 flight or whatever it is to plant a tree or to offset carbon emissions? I mean, you're already paying $200 or $300. You pay $1 or $2 more, and you offset those emissions. So things like that are entering the consciousness more and more and more. And I don't think people really want the government solutions to this with higher taxes and stuff, because that will diminish the ecological argument if the government says we're taxing you for environmental issues. And if they don't sort out the environmental issues, that might diminish the argument. But certainly through the mechanism of creation and corporate structure, I think we can see new solutions generated to the environmental issue. But the government certainly has to be on board with this. It has to subsidize these programs. It has to educate people. It does have a monopoly on education through our systems. And it certainly has a monopoly on informing people and telling people what to sort of think. And we've seen this. We've run this test now with COVID, as you know. It shut the whole world down. And, the companies would not have done that. Most of the companies would not have done what the governments have been able to do by curtailing this big global liberalism. Governments are in control, and that's the big experiment that was run in 2020 with COVID. Suddenly the borders are shut, things have stopped, everything is put on a freeze because government said so, which is to testify of how powerful governments really, really are, even in an age where everybody thought that we were just entering this one world sort of state. No, we've retracted to our borders, and we really see who's in charge and who's not, and it's all become very clear. So we do know that the government itself has a big role to play in helping us see through and not instigating this through a negative fearism complex to control, but to inspire through positive fearism.
Yes, you're right. And then another point, see what happens. Ecology doesn't mean only ecology covers to preserving sea, right? Preserving rivers, preserving dams, preserving multiple areas like air pollution. That chemical should be harmful chemical, right? CFCs, right? Chlorofluorocarbons. That is quite harmful. That should be banned. There are a number of problems creating, and then ozone layer must be protected. So this environment, this air pollution should be controlled. There are a number of other things, and then but first and most important thing comes to the forest, and then other number of things are there concerned with ecology. And what I think purity of ecology should be there in the purity of thinking also, right? If we have the purity of thinking, the purity of the outside world can be reflected in our mind itself. With the purity of the external environment, external ecosystem, external problem, strikes in our purity of our thinking, and then we change our brain, and then our brain should be with the flame of positive third of preserving ecology. And you brought the idea of Africa. See, there are very many countries suffering from this malnutrition and so many things, and they have the forest as a source of income, right? But what can they do? They can just plant the areas where they have no trees, and I already told you not about the trees only. Why don't they plant oranges? Why don't they plant mangoes? Why don't they plant avocados? Why don't they plant kiwi? These are the other fruits. And then why don't they plant bamboos? Why don't they plant that bamboo? From bamboo they can make the papers. Why don't they plant that rubber plants, right? And that income oriented, right? So people should be just educated just to preserve the ecology and environment with the economy. Their life should be related with the economy, ecology relating with economy. And then politics also should be done with the preservation of ecology and environment. There should be the competition of doing politics for the preservation of this ecosystem, this environment system, not other system now. Many things, no bombs are required, no missiles are required, no wars are required. Let's have the war with the for the protection of ecology and ecosystem. Let's change this political thinking process, right? And if this scientists should produce not for harmful chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons and other things to destroy the ecology and environment. Let them worship as God only when they produce the better things for humanity, for this ecology and environment, not for the death and destruction. Let's go against of death and destruction, because we are not for here to compete for the death, destruction, war, battle, and then to create hostility, enemy among ourselves, right? Let's fight and being united as a hostile to this degrading system of ecosystem is we are fighting right now with the only one enemy, this coronavirus, right? There will be number of coronavirus like viruses in future if we do not preserve, if we do not become conscious, if we do not think positively, if it does not touch in our heart. And why not this sort of knowledge, this type of knowledge, this type of ideas to be put in the mind, in the inner conscience of the policymakers, of the rulers, of the superpowers of the world. That is quite essential. This is what I believe. right? And this is one step. This ecofearism is one step, one beginning step. Maybe first book published in the JCK, preservation of with the principle, with the philosophy of fear connection. Eco and then fearism, right? There should be fear, positive fear with ecology, right? Let it initiate, let it become the milestone for learning, for changing their brain, for changing their concept, for changing their inner third in a positive drive instead of negative drive where the world is driving right now. This is my one inner third, one inner belief. That is what I think, right?
Absolutely. And you know, I like to think of this idea that the environment isn't external to us. You know, we're starting to understand and think of technology as internal to us. It's an extension of us, whether that be a hammer or a house or the internet. It is part of us as we are as humans. And, you know, humans have internalized this form of technology since the invention of clothes. I mean, clothes are so fundamental, so important to us as a species that we don't even think of it anymore as something that's external from us. It's part of who we are, and we make a big deal about our textile industry and clothes and fashion, etc. You know, and those internalizations of who we are have become more and more advanced as we've got more sophisticated as a society. Our clothes, our house, what we wear, who we work with, what we're perceived in public as society, what architecture do we build, what do we exhibit, and stuff like this. And I think forget all that, forget it all. What we need to understand now is that if you want to maintain that side of the externality, we have to internalize the fact that we are at one with the ecosystem. We're not above it, not in this pyramid sense of ancient Egypt, or these pyramids where, you know, where we were hunter-gatherer people and we were one over the animals because we had more sophisticated hunting techniques. No, we are actually intricate with the ecology. We are part of it. We can't do without it, and it can't do without, well, it can sort of do without us, but we wouldn't want that. We are with the ecology, and we are internal to the ecology on the outside, and I think that's something that's been lost in the domestication process through industrialization, and we have to relearn that this is the ecology is internalized, not in the sense of a pet, not in the sense that this is our dog or our cat that we keep in the house and that we pat and pet and we love and cherish in that way. No, it's a wild entity. It's a sacred wild entity, external to us, but very internal to our survival and our flourishing as humans on the planet, and as an intricate mechanism in the circle of life, not the pyramid. And I think we've been going along this structural enterprise that we are somehow at the top and everything falls underneath us. And I think this is a sort of a relationship with nature that has to be slowly eliminated if we want to survive as a species. And that comes down to you in the park. If you're thinking of if the rubbish bin is over there, and it's easier just to throw the piece of plastic into the river, then you yourself don't understand that conceptualization. And I think that's where we all have to start, and we all have to learn just from those very basic things. And then you can take it from there to a restructuring of civilization that's at one with the environment around it. Something that we used to actually do, we used to have, but that wasn't the end point, because as we know, we've gone through the Stone Age, the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, the Classical era, the Industrial era, and the Technological era. And although at some point along that line we may have reached the lunar harmony with the environment and with the ecosystem, we didn't stop there. We didn't stop there for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. It's not anything to debate about right now. We didn't stop, and we pushed to where we are. And we have to say, why is that? And how can we start to rectify and internalize the environment? Again, not as a pet, but as a part of your spiritual self, as part of your ecological self, as part of yourself with, you're at one with the environment.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And everyone has a dream. We have the dream of having better life. Every parents have has dreams for better future of their children, and every politician also has a dream of doing his nation or her nation better. And then all the superpowers, rulers, and no one is without dream there. Okay, and even the scientists have their own dreams, and all people have dreams. And why this dream should not be the dream for preservation of whole life, preservation of heavenly life, preservation of beautiful life with harmony of all other living beings and living things and the planets, right? And this dream should become the dream of making better world. Let's the dream of the world, let the dream of the scientists, let the dream of the intellectuals, let the dream of the journalists like you, let the dream of the dreams of all the experts, let the dreams of all the people of common level to the higher levels become the only one dream, single dream, sole dream of making this whole world eco-friendly with positive fear of eco-fearism, balancing with the all life system, and let that another living beings may not become the history in the future, as we have learned, it has become the history of dinosaurs at present, right? Dinosaurs were there, now it is a history. It has become like a myth. We do not believe, right? And in future, if we do not become conscious at present, what happens? And may become the myth. There were the human beings on the planet Earth in future, in next new era. What era it may come, nobody knows. So why not to set this sort of myth making like destructive, annihilating history for future, right? It is our responsibility. It is our duty. Let's make our dream positive, and let's make our dream come to true, right? Throughout the world with this concept of positive eco-fearism, right? This is what I believe as a responsible citizen of the world, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that sounds like the I have a dream speech, like of Martin Luther King, for example. I have a dream of eco-fearism, and you got to get the book, read the book. It's recommended to everybody. It's very, very important that we do this and we transform. Fearism is a complicated subject. It's not just being fearful of an external creature or bad thing. It's a very complicated study, and it's great to see the field of fearism growing, eco-fearism being a subsect of fearism, and I want to see more fearism. I want to see more types of fearism, more subjects on fearism, and there's so much more to explore with new civilizations and the challenges that we're bumping up against. So very, very, very good there. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we left?
Okay, it's all right. That's very good and nice to talk to you. Let the world, whole world know all these things. Let the world listen our ideas. Let them inculcate themselves, and if they want, let them read. It is available throughout more than 50 online resources like Amazon, and even it is in National Library of Australia already, right? Online. Let all the people get it and purchase it and buy it and learn it. If not, let them learn, let them listen our talk and then learn more and change their conscience. And maybe soon another book is also coming related with fearism. I'm just completing this another project. Let the whole world be enlightened for the better heavenly world formation, right? Heavenly universe formation. Let there be end of the war of weapons, war of chemicals. Let the war of eco-friendly environment establishment be go on and on for the humanity, for the sake of better life, for the sake of all the living beings who are just living beings and living things who are sharing with us in this planet. Or let another disaster like Australian fire of last time 6 months never occur again in the world, in any corners of the globe. Let there be no any longer fire in Amazon forest. Let there be no forest fire anywhere in these corners of the world. Let there be no any chemicalization in the air, no any pollution in the air. Let there be a positive theorism. Let there be positive concept, positive spirit, positive thought, positive conscience, positive heart everywhere, and let it flourish better for the future generations and our future sea of springs. That's all. That's what I want to convey my idea. That's great to talk to you, Mr.
No, thank you very much, and we will leave a link for people to buy the ECO-FEARISM book in the bottom there, because it's very important that we all become aware of ECO-FEARISM. I agree. Universal positivity, absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute honor, a pleasure, and I hope to see you again soon. And also tell people, to follow the show or bring more ECO-FEARISM people back on. I'd like to talk to Mr. Fisher again, Desh Shuba. He's a little bit reluctant because of his English. He said he has poor English, so he doesn't want to do it, which I find sad. I think he would be fine. But thank you for coming on for him. And of course, we're all going to see Osin Akachi very soon anyway, either for ECO-FEARISM or his TAFs, which is incredible anyway. So it's fantastic. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. You're also I'm very grateful to you to bring this kid book in the light of the world. Who will let the world listen to our talk and then get the better ideas and change their concept. That's what I just am very grateful with you to communicate in such issues and give it interest in it. That's very kind of you.
Your voice must be heard. I totally agree. Well, I want to also thank Ambit. Thank you. That's a VPN company that's now supporting us as well. Their link will be in the description. And that's the end of the show. So we'll go out now. But thank you very much, sir. And we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
You too,
or
sir.
Good night.
Life. We have goals that depend on bodies and brains. We work and learn better. We love better when our bodies and our brains function better. At Thrivous, our goal is to help you improve your brain and body, to help you achieve your goals. So that's the power we encapsulate. Ready for help with your goals? Visit Thrivous.com.
Alone. Uncertainty. Doubt. Fear. In a strange place. Something stops you. Challenges test your strength. A rush of adrenaline. The light. The air. It is the moment.